been described as the hardest-hitting book on the ANC ever to have seen the light of day. Political analysts Prince Mashele and Mzukisi Qobo have created a stir with their book entitled The Fall of the ANC. Congratulations on a very hard-hitting book, and I'm going to suggest to you, you're not going to make too many friends in the ruling party. But let's start with the media if we can. You talk about a paucity of analysis in South Africa and how the ANC finds itself in a position where governance has ostensibly collapsed. Where is the analysis lacking, and are we to blame for it in the media?
I think the media is partly to blame because we sort of try to reach for the sensational, and we move very quickly from one issue to another without taking a pause to ask deeper questions as to the source of the decay. I don't think the media is as harsh analytically as it should be. There is an attempt to embarrass the ruling party, but this often is read by the public, and certainly those who are sympathetic to the ruling party, as just a witch hunt. And I think an analysis does help to enrich the discourse and also to better inform the public.
How could we get better at that analytical discourse then?
If we do spend a bit more time on the issue at hand, if we do ask probing questions of the ANC. And I think where we are today in South Africa, there is almost an acceptance that, well, the ruling party will make mistakes, and we're quick to forgive, and we move on to the next issue or to some other unrelated event somewhere else. So if we are not event driven but discourse driven, which is in part is a function of training, in part is a function of conversation, analysts who can make incisive observations on the ruling party.
One of the problems you point out, we might get to it later in the discussion, is the problem of too much hero worshipping in the country. I want you to reflect, though, on the public broadcaster now. You also write in the book that the public broadcaster is synchronized with the party. Has that, in your opinion, become de facto operating policy, or is it just perceptual?
I think it's beyond perception. I think it's de facto. I think there has been an attempt by the ruling party to control the public broadcaster, and in the process it has shattered its credibility. Not many people really believe or trust what comes through the public broadcaster, and some of the internal tensions that have been playing out within the public broadcaster are a reflection of a political struggle outside of the public broadcaster, driven from Luthuli House to keep the public broadcaster under its wing.
Also talk about deliberate strategies or stratagems to emasculate the independent media, and I think you conclude by saying that the consequence is that power is now being maintained through fantasy. That is a very harsh critique.
I think very little actually of what we say is harsh, because it's out there, it's plain, it's for everyone to see. And I think the production of a state information bill is one, I think, landmark of the decay of the state and an attempt to clip the independence of independent media, of independent analysts, and to protect the rot that is happening within the state. Because if you classify a document as confidential, as a state secret, there is no way that you are going to get a fair reporting. There is no way you're going to get transparency, and therefore there is no way that you get those who hold power accountable.
A lot of this, you and your colleague write, can be traced back to early post-democracy leadership in this country. And you talk about us being guilty of something called reconciliatory sentimentalism. What is that?
I think we got carried away with this notion of rainbowism. They talk about it was inevitable, but we got carried away. I think we got lost into it. It becomes a cloud of fantasy that we that lulled us into to planting our critique first of the ruling party, and also to exerting ourselves intellectually of the complexities of our challenges, socio-economic, managing the state in terms of governance, And knowing that the people that we've put in power are not gods, but they are mortals. And
to the point that we overcook the credentials of our leaders, you say, and as I referred to a little earlier, too much hero worshipping.
That for me is one of the most, one of the dangers of our democracy. And you find it in post-colonial African states where we worship leaders, we worship nationalist movements, we believe that they are saints, we believe that they are messiahs, we believe that they are ultimately liberators, and in the process we lose power to elites who are there not to improve the quality of life but to fill their pockets.
You refer to something called the high wave of post-colonial politics, and you also contend that the wave is falling. So if the wave is falling, what takes up the slack? What fills the vacuum? To the title of your book, what is next?
We try not to be too predictive of the future, but quite clearly vacuum will be filled. If there is a vacuum of power, if there is a vacuum of leadership, something will fill it. And dangerously in South Africa today, we face a prospect of that vacuum being filled by right-wing nationalist parties that come from within the ANC, who present themselves as leftists. And here I'm talking about Julius Malema's economic freedom fighters. They have absolutely no inspiring narrative other than to provoke the base sentiments of those who are angry at having been left out of the change process in South Africa. Yet we have an opportunity as citizens to challenge ourselves, to think differently about democracy, to vote differently than we used to, but also to be actively involved in processes of civil society.
And you can let us know what you think of these two books. They are A Rumour of Spring, the author is Max du Preez, and The Fall of the ANC, the authors Prince Mashele and Mzukisi Qobo. Until next week, goodbye to you, and as always, thank you for watching.
News that moves. ENCA.com.